You are now tuned into Flipping the Birds, a Philly Sports Network podcast.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome one, welcome all to another episode of Flipping the Birds.
He's into the end zone. Touchdown, Eagles.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome one, welcome all to episode 214 of Flipping the Birds. I'm Brian Cameron alongside Eric Reese, Morgan Burkett, and we are back. We are live. How are you feeling, gentlemen?
Feeling great. About to go to Florida tomorrow. So, that's vacation starting a little bit early. So, yeah, I'm excited for that. And I know Morgan knows what I'm talking about because he's currently on one.
Yeah, man. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not in Florida, but yeah, I've been good, man. I've been busy, so it's good to be back. I always miss you guys, so it's nice to be back.
Weren't you just in Mexico?
That's what I was talking
about.
Maybe he was just on one, yeah.
That was like a month ago, though, but yeah.
Well, whatever. Close enough. Time flies, right? I guess.
Time flies, man. Time flies.
Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. I mean, time is flying. Eagles offseason is coming to a close. We're getting to the point where training camps are about to ramp up, which means the season is going to be going on the way fairly shortly. But what's an Eagles season without some added drama to begin with? The topic of conversation at this point in the offseason is Jalen Hurts is still not giving us a lot of answers, and it's still a surprise. The issue at hand is people feel like he didn't come to the defense of Nick Sirianni or didn't stand up for Nick Sirianni when a media reporter asked him how much say has pretty much Sirianni had in the offense and what his message has been. Jalen kind of just being Jalen. Is this being overblown, or is it are we looking at something brewing within?
I don't know, man. Like I think there's definitely something to be said for his responses. Like I don't think that's really the response we were hoping for. But I think it's less of a difference between the two. Like I don't think they're going to be at odds or anything like that. What I think, based on kind of what I've interpreted, is it's an interesting indication of the structure of the team going forward. Like it just seems like there's confusion to me. That's what it seems like. It doesn't seem like, wow, there's a rift between the two, or they're at odds or anything like that. But that's where you hope for the answers that really solidify what the team's plan is going forward, and you hope for some insight. And as a reporter, you're definitely fishing with those kind of questions, but you're also hoping for a little softball question that you allow Jalen to kind of elaborate on. And we know he's not one to elaborate on many things, but you're kind of hoping they go, okay, well, this is what's been different, or this is what's changed. And, it took him a while and he second guessed. And also, we may have just caught him on a bad day. We all have those days where the brain's just not functioning and, answering questions is not what you want to be doing. But there's something there to be said for, clearly it seems like from the outside looking in, Nick Sirianni's role should have changed. And if the players and the player that should know the changes and the makeup and the fabric of the team going forward doesn't really have a good answer, I mean, there's something there, I think. But I think also, the media tends to overblow these things. But it is interesting. It kind of there's a little hint of a little disorganization, which you hope was solved from last year.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of your points. There is definitely a little hint of disorganization, but I also think that he just really isn't going to be bothered with asking questions that aren't pertaining to, I don't know, something that has to do with the game that just happened, maybe, something like that. Like he just doesn't want to dive in. I don't think he's meaning to create this drama. I think this is drama that is, otherwise from a non-answer, if you will, it's creating drama because it's just like, dang, we didn't really get what we want. So what does this mean? And now we're making our own narratives. I don't think that this is going to be something that spirals. As far as I'm understanding, it wasn't that long ago where this, offense was what quoted as 95% different. Well, what was the difference? Was it, is it because there's no Brian Johnson? Is it because Sirianni is taking a whole back seat from the offensive duties, and it's just 95% of it's Kellen Moore, or maybe it's all Kellen Moore. Maybe that's what actually the answer is. Maybe we already had our answer going into this, and that's the different part of this training camp so far for Jalen Hurts. And, maybe he doesn't know to what extent that, Sirianni will be involved with the offensive game plan. But if he doesn't know that, then he gave an answer that's brutally honest. And you can really expect a lot more than, what you do know. And maybe he just – that's where the disconnect is. I leave that going back to your point, Morgan. That's the one I agree with absolutely the most.
I think there's a lot of ways to look at this. And, we know that last season, I hate to be this guy. When Sirianni lost his babysitter on the sidelines, things got a little tense. Sirianni's demeanor was a little bit out of sorts. You saw him butt heads with Devontae, AJ. You saw Jalen and Dallas get into it at one point. Like, a lot of things happened on that sideline last year. And, with the rumors this season of how everything was going to go, us as the media, we knew how things were going to go with the moment that the rumors came out that Sirianni was not going to have his hands deep into the offense. Like, it was Doug Peterson all over again when Doug was fighting the new coordinators, and they brought, the board of coordinators into the Eagles offense. So Sirianni, like, the way I see it is, like, he's a coach. He's the head coach, yeah. But Sirianni also gave us the hint. He's like, he's coaching now. He's like, I'm able to coach the running backs. I'm able to coach the defensive backs, the safeties, the defensive line. I'm everywhere, which kind of is a tell of what Jalen kind of, like, said in that comment. It was kind of like, yeah, he's around, but, like, guys, like I just told you, like, 95% of the offense is new. Like, catch the hint. Like, that's what it is, and then, leave it at that. I don't think there's much of a big rift. I do think that there is still some sore wounds from last season, how things transpired, because we don't know behind the scenes if they butt heads at any point. But I've been against this for a while, and I said this at the end of the season. Sirianni needs to have a big slice of humble pie. You've got to just have some composure and just, dude, you got to grow up a little bit. I mean, we're not 20. You're not a 26-year-old. You can't be acting like a fan out there. You have to act like you're the head coach of a billion-dollar franchise, and that's exactly what you are.
I mean, isn't this the most veteran group of coordinators he's had around him in terms of NFL experience? And at least when he's in Philadelphia, right?
Yeah.
So, I do believe that this is a turning point for Sirianni more than it is anybody else in this conversation here. Jalen Hurts is playing with a new deck again. It's nothing new to his pretty much entirety as a football player. And I think this is probably the best deck that he has to play with because of the veteran leadership and a creativity from an offensive coordinator like Kellen Moore. But because of the veteran, savvy around Sirianni, and he still has Dom, obviously, that is going to.
Dom got a promotion this offseason. He's a game day coaching something. He's on a
specialist that keeps Sirianni in check. That's I think what's going to be. Look out for that this year. This could be a year where Sirianni is returning. He might leave that behind, and then that moment that he leaves that behind, I wouldn't be surprised to see a strong relationship between him and Hurts.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I'll add to those things too is that winning begets winning, right? And so a lot of these issues would be non-issues if the Eagles didn't have that collapse last year. And another famous kind of saying is if you're not winning, you're learning. And so there's a lot of these underlying issues that came to the forefront because of the losses, but it's almost, again, you hope the Eagles win a Super Bowl last year. That's always the hope. But if they don't, you at least hope that the problems that they had are being addressed. And, it seems like on paper they are. And I think that, unfortunately, when you're trying new things and you're kind of attacking a new approach, like it's always going to be a bit sticky, right? You're always going to have gears that kind of clash and stuff like that. And so I think that, a non-answer in a way from Jalen Hurts is a good answer, right? Like we're not really sure what it looks like. We're working through it kind of deal. And I think also like with the whole, Sirianni having his hands on different things, like last year he had to have his hands in the offense. Like I can't imagine how much worse that offense would have been if, we had like Brian Johnson was clearly the play caller. He's still calling plays. And, most of what the issues were last season was play calling, right? There was some really interesting play design. We saw like glimpses of it. We talked about it all year. We're hoping that got developed, and it never did, right? And so even if you're installing stuff throughout the week, Sirianni can't make him call the plays. And so that's one of those cases where I think that he was getting too involved, which was taking him away from other things, which is an issue. Don't get me wrong, but with that offense was so bad at times, you were just hoping that, you clearly as a head coach, you see that and you need to get involved, right? So I don't necessarily think it's an issue of him being too involved in the offense, as him being that involved in the offense pulls him away from other things like developing relationships, like managing the team, right? And the head coach, a lot of these, like it's not like the days in the past where the head coach called offense, then had hands in the defense, and et cetera, et cetera. Like they're a figurehead in a lot of ways, right? Like, don't get me wrong, they're really important, but a lot of it's just directing traffic and managing emotions and managing personalities, and you're essentially making sure all the coaches are on the same page all the way from top to bottom, right? And so if you get pulled in one direction, it takes you away from another, and it's kind of like Jenga at that point, right? Like you can tear that piece away, and all of a sudden it all crumbles. So I think what the Eagles have done to kind of put him in a position with a lot of experienced coaches that he doesn't have to manage will work wonders. And the fact that he's able to now be a player's coach, not just the offense, but the defense. And that was something that got brought up where there was kind of that rift between the offense and defense of blaming each other. I think it's good news. It's just, again, we were hoping for more kind of comfort and confidence from Jalen Hurts, an answer that we didn't get. But I don't think it's a huge cause for concern.
I'm curious to know your thoughts on this, and I hate to do this, right? But playing a little devil's advocate right now. The Eagles have Vic Fangio as defensive coordinator, and they have Kellen Moore, who everybody in Philadelphia seems to think the world of at this point. And then you have Nick Sirianni, who's the head coach, right? If this season the Eagles are 1-out against in the playoffs, and Kellen Moore is interviewing in the middle of, at the end of the season, in the middle of the playoffs for a head coaching position. Vic, we know he's not going anywhere. What is your play in Philadelphia? Like, do you move on for Sirianni and promote a Kellen Moore? Do you go to the drastic measures of adding fuel to the fire of Bill Belichick all over again? Because let's not sweep it under the rug. Jeffrey Lurie met with Robert Kraft in the offseason. He picked his brain about Belichick. The Eagles showed interest in Belichick. It didn't happen for whatever reason, which I think a lot of us are kind of relieved to know. But if Sirianni falls flat on his face now, like, are the Eagles doomed because their options are going to be that much more limited?
Yeah, they are going to be more limited, especially because if in the realm where Bill Belichick is an opportunity, that's history. I don't think he's an opportunity anymore. I think he's pretty happy with life past football. And if he did come back, I think it would be for the right team, with the team that made that he made his name at, with the Patriots. And as far as a successor maybe to Sirianni, if you will, it would have to be Kellen Moore if he's getting ready to take on a head coaching position. But I think that only happens if, you see more of the same from Sirianni. That's why I think a big storyline this year will be the maturity of Sirianni and with the roster. Now, and if Kellen Moore then takes on a role as a head coach and he's up for that still, but you have a little bit more, confidence in Sirianni, you just kind of let Kellen Moore grow, because he's not going to, unless you make him an offer to, be a very, very highly paid offensive coordinator where he wants to stay in Philly, then maybe that's your move at that point. But besides that, I mean, it's going to heavy emphasis on how Sirianni matures this season.
Yeah,
but out on Belichick completely.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's Belichick, but I think honestly, it's almost crazy to talk about, because if you're putting Nick Sirianni in the hot seat after not making the playoffs, like it would be almost unprecedented, right? He's had winning seasons, and he's going to come out of it with a winning record regardless, most likely. So, unless the season goes absolutely tits up, which I don't think it will, but I legitimately do think there's a chance that if the Eagles go 1-out in the playoffs, that you're looking at a different head coach. And I think it just is more commentary on how talented the roster is. I mean, Howie Roseman for a long time was put under fire because he couldn't put it together. Now he has. We know the relationship that he and Jeffrey Lurie have. Like, I think there's not much more Howie Roseman can do, right? And so you kind of have to consider the coaching, which, again, is crazy considering the record and how far Nick Sirianni's taken the Eagles. But they did it before with Doug Peterson, right? If there is a team that'll do it, it's Philly. And I think, it helps to kind of see Dallas across the way make the exact opposite mistake and get used to complacency and get used to not making a run in the playoffs. And clearly in Philadelphia, they're not willing to go through that. But I'd be interested with Kellen Moore. Like, one, you got him in house, right? He's one of the highest sought after head coaches, probably next year. Depending on how the offense goes, I think what I would really say is that it really depends on what the issue is that brought the Eagles to be 1-0, right? Like, if it's a defensive issue, then I don't know. Like, it would be hard to see Vic Fangio's defense collapsing, but it could happen. Whereas, if they are 1-0 and it's the offense, then I think you might be looking at a new OC, and Kellen Moore's probably going to get an opportunity somewhere else, and you let him walk. So it'd be really interesting to see like why the issue is if they do go 1-0. I can't see it happening, but I think if they do, like, definitely you're looking at a new head coach potentially, and maybe even kind of full house clean out, because a lot of these, I don't know if Vic Fangio is going anywhere, but Kellen Moore is going to get an opportunity to be a head coach, I think, regardless.
I think that's my only fear, honestly, just having that inconsistency again in offense. Like, we have the quarterback we want, we have the wide receivers we want, we finally have the running back we want, we have the one of the best offensive lines for years already. Like, it kind of sucks that they went with a guy like Kellen Moore because he's young, he's flashy, he's up and coming, and not an older guy that was just kind of a little bit washed and a little bit out of his element and just gonna stay as a coordinator. Which sucks. It speaks volumes about a lot of other teams, how they suck at hiring their own head coaches. But I don't know. Like, I feel like to me, the risk right now is Kellen Moore, because you don't have an in-house replacement for Kellen Moore. Like, he's most likely taking it. I forget the guy's name, but the QB coach. He's most likely taking him wherever he goes. So then you're restarting next year all over again, even if you guys have a good season. But I think I just want to pick your brain about that, because I think that was my fear at the moment is, if the Eagles offense pops and Nick Sirianni is not maturing like Eric had mentioned before, then like, do you make the move to keep Kellen Moore, or do you overpay him as OC, or do you make him head coach? It's just I want continuity on the offense. This team, they're built to be a playoff team for years, year in, year out. The quarterback is built to be one of the top quarterbacks in the league, which I strongly believe he is. And it's just there's got to be some continuity back there.
There's an interesting development. I think that this might become more common as you see Ben Johnson, right? Like, he was a prime candidate for head coaching positions after, being the OC in Detroit. And he said he didn't want it. Like, he wants to be an offensive coordinator. And the thing that it takes you away from being a head coach is football. Like I talked about, right? Like, you become almost, again, a very involved figurehead where you're managing people, but mostly your staff, right? And you do get to develop those relationships, but it's not your playbook anymore, most likely. Again, he's the head coach. If he wanted it to be his playbook, it probably would be. But it does take you away from that, right? You need to bring in an OC for the most part, and there are very few teams that operate with a coordinator as their head coach. And there's some guys that just don't want to do it. And if they do want to do it, they realize that once you're a head coach, right, if it doesn't go well, you won't get another opportunity for a bit. You really want to be prepared for that opportunity. And Kellen Moore, he's still young, right? I could see him wanting to be here. If this season goes well and they get the offense going, like, there's not many better opportunities in Philly to develop your offense right now. Like, you have
fantastic.
Yeah, you have all the weapons at your disposal. You could really put on a show for 2-3 years and then get whatever head coaching position you wanted, right? So, it might be wishful thinking, but I think there's a development where you're going to start to see these young coordinators, because, again, there's a lot more young coordinators out there too. It didn't used to be the fact that there's so many young guys getting opportunities, and now you see a couple young guys getting head coach opportunities, and they're there for 1 or 2 years, and then boom, now they're finding jobs in college again, right? So, similar to Jenga, right? You don't want to necessarily pull out your foundation when you could just keep building. So,
yeah, I feel just completely I don't know, completely confident that this season, with what Kellen Moore has at his disposal, is just, I don't know. There's no part of me that has any doubt that it's going to go, according to plan. Like it's going to be. I think we're going to see, resurgence, and there's no way that this team is out in the first round of the playoffs.
When I think about Kellen Moore's offense, I don't know if you guys remember this, but I think about the good times where you saw Zach Ertz and Nelson Aguilar give high-fiving each other in the middle of a mesh concept. Like that's the kind of offense that I feel like we're looking forward to possibly seeing this season. But moving off the radio bait and moving towards the Eagles stuff. I want to pick your brains, and I know we're not going to go for a longer show today, but who are your breakout candidates this season? I'm very curious to know. We could go defense and then we could go offense, however you guys like. But there's a lot of freaking great potential on this roster from top to bottom, and I feel like there's going to be some sneaky good guys on defense. There's some really sneaky good guys on offense. Eric, we'll start with you if you want. Who's your breakout candidate for this season?
I'll say on offense, I'm going to go right with the offensive line. We were talking about the versatility and availability at guard, and I think Mekhi Becton is going to rebound in Philadelphia. I've said it enough with his combined. Honestly, his talent. We knew that he had talent when he was drafted, and he was perceived high enough in his draft class. But when there's something to work with Jeff Stoutland, he finds whatever that potential was that other teams might have missed out on. And I have no doubt that with Jeff Stoutland's track record, that Mekhi Becton is going to find his footing in Philadelphia. Defensively, let's go with Quinyon Mitchell. That's my breakout, because I think there's going to be a ton of opportunity for him to work alongside Slay and to basically complement Slay. I can say him, or I can say, what's the gentleman that we all were really hyped up about?
Isaiah Rodgers?
No, the third corner, rookie, second year player.
Oh, Keely Ringo?
Yes, Ringo. I don't know why I almost said I almost said a name that was definitely not what I meant, but yeah, Keely Ringo. I do think that he could be a breakout guy as well, but I'm going to roll with Quinyon Mitchell as my option there.
All right. I think two good picks. Like, I mean, the thing about the Eagles roster this year is there's not a whole bunch of brand new starters that we're not already excited about. So, but I think on offense, like, it's going to take a while. Don't get me wrong, but I really do like Anais Smith, man. I think he's going to find a way to get involved. It's going to be late in the season, but the Eagles still need to find that third receiver, and he just gives you something intangible. Like, he's just got that wow factor. If I'm Kellen Moore, I'm licking my chops. I'm finding him ways to get involved, and that's something that he's been fairly good at. Quentin Johnson, right, didn't do well in the Chargers, but that was not for lack of opportunity, right? Like, Kellen Moore likes to get his young guys opportunity. We saw countless kind of new or young Dallas players when he was there, like get an opportunity to make plays, and so I think, again, it might take some time, and he's going to start behind Paris Campbell, who I think also is a great addition. I could say Paris Campbell is a breakout, but I don't think he's going to put up crazy numbers. Like, he's just going to be a solid addition, right? But I do think that that Smith could surprise some people later on, especially non-Philly guys. Like, I don't think anyone really registered that draft pick as much as we did in Philly, but I think he could surprise people. On defense, man, I mean, for me, it's just Milton Williams. That guy just keeps getting better. I think he's going to have one of those Javon Hargrave kind of seasons where he's, 10 sacks, just disruptive. He just keeps getting better and better and better. And it's shocking that the league hasn't taken notice. But when you're playing beside Jordan Davis and you're playing beside Jalen Carter, you're going to get opportunities. And that's a guy who, if he was on a different team, you'd be doubling. So he's just going to have a fantastic season. Pray he stays healthy the whole time, knock on wood. Because if he does, I think that's going to be probably one of the better defensive tackle and combo seasons we've seen in a bit.
Morgan, do you think they pick up another receiver?
I don't think so. Like, I mean, if it is, it's not going to be a starter. Like, I think it's going to be a guy that they add. But I mean, Paris Campbell as your third receiver is pretty good, man. Yeah. And I think they have some other guys too that can make some noise. The other thing that we're not considering is hopefully we get a full season, healthy season of Dallas Goedert. And when that guy plays a full healthy season, he's top 5 tight end in the league.
Exactly. I completely agree with that. You kind of stole my Milton Williams, so I had to pivot away. But for offense,
You could talk about it too. Like, let's heap on Milton Williams praise, man, because this guy's gonna go off.
I feel like he's a very, very underrated piece on his defense, and I feel like he's like everybody looks at Jordan Davis like, yo, he's an animal. He's got to be the guy. First round pick. Jalen Carter, yeah, he's an animal. He's got to be the guy. First round pick, but Milton Williams has been there. He's been the bread and butter in the back of the cabinet for the longest. The guy with no expiration date. And he's due for I think he's due for a contract extension after this year, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So like
he's playing for a contract.
He's playing for more snaps, and I think in this defense he's gonna have a significant role. And he learned from Fletch the longest out of the three. Like that has to mean something. But I'll start defense since you got me started with that. Defensively, I'm going with the guy who's under the most scrutiny since he was selected in the first round. It's Nolan Smith season for me, and I feel like I fell in love with his limited snaps because of the burst off the line of scrimmage. He's quick, he's smart, he's strong, and it just feels like he's got a chip on his shoulder for the right reason this season. Didn't get much playing time with Deshaun Desai, Matt Patricia combo last season. Hassan Reddick is no longer here. We got him to be the new Hassan Reddick. And he's rocking the number 3 in Philadelphia. Like, that's legendary enough for me. Bryce Harper, Allen Iverson. Like, what more can you ask for? Offensively, though, I have a very interesting one. But I don't know about you guys. I'm tired of the Saquon Barkley hate. Like, he's not a top 5 running back. Like, can anybody – he ran behind the Giants' offensive line for years.
That's the reason why right there. You said it.
Like, guys, he ran behind one of the 30th ranked offensive line for years. Like, and he put up 5,000 yards over there in a terrible stadium on top of that.
He clearly has the elite talent because of what you just said, but also he was on the team that was at the bottom of every barrel, so no one cared enough really to say he's a top 5. Exactly. Now, honestly, he is. You're right.
And the thing is, like, when he was coming out in the draft, he was a generational talent. Like, they were talking about this guy like he was the next Barry Sanders. He's in Philadelphia now. He's running behind. Yes, I know Jason Kelce's not here no more, but you cannot discredit the knowledge that Jason Kelce bestowed on Cam Jurgens for the last 2 years. Jeff Stoutland is still here as well. Like, people need to stop writing him off like he doesn't exist.
The thing that people don't account for is he's got a true running threat at quarterback. Like Danny Dimes, he ran all over the Eagles for some reason, but
he fell over against us. That was cool.
Yeah,
I was laughing already.
But for some reason he totals like 67 yards when he plays the Eagles, and no other time he can run. But man, it's a huge deal, right? To have a quarterback when you have that read option, right? Like, it just slows the defense down, and they're like, he's a guy that only needs one step. Right, he only needs a step and then he's gone. So it makes a huge difference, dude. Not just talking about the O-line, but just the offense you're going to be joining.
I completely agree. And I'm not saying he's going for 2,000 yards, but I'm saying, like, we're going to see, like, history out of him from a running back position in Philadelphia this season. Because, again, like, he has everything he needs, and he doesn't have to be the guy. I'm tired of people hyping up the Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson combo. Like, no, like, the Jalen Hurts and Saquon combo is that lethal. Like, we need to start talking about that in the same breath as we're talking about those two. But I feel like this is going to be the Saquon season that people have been wanting to see out of him, but they couldn't see because of the limited ability he had in New York. He's in Philly. He's got open field. I can't wait, dude. I really can't wait.
What was the last Eagle to win the NFL rushing title for a season? Was it still McCoy?
I think it was Shady, yeah. Right? Because he was running around with that title belt.
Yeah, that's fair. That's what I remember too. Oh, real quick before we wrap this up. So who's on the hot seat? What player is on the hot seat for you guys this season? Like, this is like his, like, okay, like, figure it out or get off the pot.
You want to go first, Brian?
Yeah, I got one. I got one ready to go, but it's no
I got one that's
surprise,
gonna piss people off, and I don't mean the disrespect at all. But there's logic behind it. Jalen Hurts is on the hot seat for me.
Wow.
And here's why I'm saying it.
Wow.
Turn. Let me clarify it. I'm saying Jalen Hurts is on a hot seat just because the noise that's happening outside of Philadelphia. I believe everybody in Philadelphia believes in him from the top to the bottom. But if we know anything about NFL is that the outside noise at one point is going to break through and cause issues. Now, here's why I'm saying that. People are saying Jalen Hurts had a bad season last year. He wasn't that far off from MVP Lamar Jackson. The only difference was turnovers, interceptions, and fumbles. And he had a very bad offensive coordinator. We know this. But the reason I'm saying Jalen Hurts is because national media, everybody's throwing dirt in this kid's face like he didn't accomplish the Super Bowl in his second year as a starting quarterback. They're throwing dirt in his face like he hasn't been to the playoffs 3 times as a starting quarterback. He's on the hot seat because I feel like it's time for him to overperform. Like we had a great 2022 season from Jalen Hurts, but I don't think that was a breakout season. I think we're still due a Jalen Hurts breakout season where it's like, shit, like this guy actually is good. Like what bad can we really say about him?
Yeah, make a clip of that, Morgan. That's the hot take right there. The whole
it wasn't bad though. Like
I'm gonna make it complete.
No, it's not bad, but I can't.
I mean, it's gonna just be like Jalen Hurts hot seat turnovers. I don't like him. That's all. I
don't like him.
Just stutter it. Just keep repeating it. Turnovers.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's gonna. Yep, that'll do numbers.
Saying, like I'm tired of the Jalen Hurts disrespect. Like he's not one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. Like they're saying Lamar's better. Like okay, he had a point higher in completion percentage and like
hot seat not in the sense that he's gonna get cut, but hot seat is he needs to show. He needs to show.
Exactly. I'm not saying
so that's the way you're leaning on that. Yeah. Okay. I'm saying on the way that you might not be on the roster like after your season, it's Nakobe Dean.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It's Nakobe Dean, dude.
I don't disagree with that. Go ahead.
There's just a lot. Okay. I mean, for me, speaking personally, there's a lot of hype and I want to see it, but also that linebacker room is becoming a like almost a state of emergency while it's filling up. So you're just becoming hey, as a rookie, but a rookie with hardly any experience, you're an aged rookie in a room full of younger guys that will have maybe more experience if this keeps up. So
and don't forget Devin White, experienced linebacker. That was a top 5. I think it was a top 5 pick, right? If I'm not mistaken, Devin White.
Yeah. Yep. So and so this is the situation where this season is crucial, and we're talking about if I would say that something that would have changed my mind about taking him out of the hot seat is if he puts together not a stunning season, not anything like that would be normally a breakaway from somebody who was had a healthy season in the NFL and then now they're breaking out to be a star. Give me a solid healthy season, and then we'll talk. But if not that, you got to figure it out a move partner because. That seems like a trend now, and it might even be late to call it that.
Man, for me, I feel like I might be getting controversial a bit too, but for me, it's Slay, man. For me, it's Slay for sure. I mean, he signed the extension, right? He's gonna be here, but I mean, clearly, reports coming out of him wanting to be somewhere else this offseason potentially. The Eagles just filled that DB room with a lot of young talent. Looks like they're already kind of going, like he already kind of feels like he's the odd man. Obviously, you want him there to coach up the young guys. I mean, James Bradbury is still here. So, I mean, clearly the Eagles are holding on to vets, but he's got to be dominant this year, right? And I think not even just for his future in Philly, but his future in the league. Like, he's going to get opportunities, don't get me wrong, but it's going to be those Patrick Peterson opportunities where he's kind of, going from team to team every year. And I would hate for Slay's legacy to go like that, right? And so I think this year for him, again, not saying I'm wanting him out of Philly or anything like that, but I think that this is kind of a prove-it year for how the rest of his career goes. And so I think there's a lot riding on this year from Slay. And, unfortunately, if an injury happens, right, and Slay goes down and one of the young corners steps up, takes his job, like I think that's it for him, right? And so I think it's not a hot seat that I'm wishing on him, but it's a real possibility. Like the Eagles seem to be going in that direction already. If he doesn't perform early, it could be kind of wraps for him, and he might have to play in a different jersey.
And it's crazy because that's a very crowded cornerback room. Like
man.
they could easily move off of Slay and James Bradbury and be perfectly fine with Isaiah Rodgers, Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Keely Ringo, Avonte Maddox, Zach McPherson, like Eli Ricks. Like
let's leave Zach out. Let's leave Zach out of it.
I'm just throwing names.
Great special teamer, man. He's a great special teamer.
I'm just throwing the names to throw it, but it's a crowded ass room. Like we're talking about the cornerback rooms, like going to motor vehicles in like New York. Like it's that crowded.
I don't know. I don't get that reference, but yeah, man.
I do get it. Yeah, it's like I don't know, Toronto, Morgan.
Yeah, that's another city. I know that one.
Yes, that exists. That's a city.
Speak my language.
Ontario. That's like a state, in your version. Taylor's version.
Really quick before we wrap up. So, I mean, I'm surprised that nobody mentioned this, but Jordan Davis, is he on the hot seat for anybody?
That is another one that is probably worth
Eagles, they're talking about him the same way as Brandon Graham when they were calling Brandon Graham a bust, and the guy that they took they should have taken the safety.
Where's Brandon Graham now, man?
Exactly. I get that. I'm just saying they could have had Kyle Hamilton instead of Jordan Davis.
I don't understand anybody calling Jordan Davis a bust. It's just we want to see that across the board for a full season. We know that what he can do, and he's been able to prove it, at least year after year, just not for the full year. That's what we're looking for.
I think that's
what it is.
When you have a first round pick and his biggest problem is staying in shape, you go, okay, like come on now, like that should have been taken care of, right? But the issue is not like his ability to develop, man. That dude's got talent, and that's undeniable. So getting him in shape, and he already looks from the pictures like he's slimmed down, like he looks bigger, right? Like for some guys, it just takes more time. But I think that's what it is. It's so annoying to spend a first round pick and he's out of shape, right? Like
Zion Williamson, is that his name from New Orleans?
Yeah.
Pelicans?
Yep.
Oh yeah, exactly, right? Like, but then when Zion goes off, man, no one's calling him a bust. They're like, okay, that's
exactly true. I mean, I might have said it, before, just because like he hasn't stayed in shape and he's missed, time and whatever. But that's really it. It's a matter of like, can you stay disciplined enough where you're effective more on instead of just, missing time? And I don't think that he's necessarily. It's not a matter of him missing time. It's a matter of him just keeping disruptive and not becoming transparent during the season.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why it's so important the Eagles doubled down and got Jalen Carter, because I don't know if Jordan Davis is a guy you can build a defensive line around, right? But now you don't have to, right? Now pressure's off. You saw your boy ball out last year. That's going to get you motivated. He's already lost all that weight, man. I'm expecting a big season out of him.
Okay, fair game. Nick Sirianni on hot seat, or no? Is that still just me?
I can see a place where if it's playoff inconsistency and you start to look around the room and nothing's really changed from last season, where you might start to think that as the season goes on. But as of right now, considering any part of that radio conversation play between Sirianni and Hurts, it's too early to even. I mean, we're making headlines because we're freaking out about it. If there's any time to really like freak out about it and figure it out, let's talk, a couple weeks into the season when you can actually have a sample size of inconsistency or consistency even.
You ever had that friend and like maybe he's been fighting with his girlfriend for a bit and then I don't know, maybe they break up and then he gets back into the dating pool and then he gets that harsh reminder. Like, I get it. Nick Sirianni's not perfect, but man, some of the coaches out there, like it could be a lot worse.
Yes.
It could be a lot worse.
I think my only bone to pick with Sirianni is like Eric mentioned before, and he hit the nail on the head. I want to see maturity. I want to see the leader of the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't want to see the cheerleader of the Philadelphia Eagles.
That's right.
That's my thing.
Not leader in it. You just gotta cut off the cheer part, I guess.
You're halfway there, bro. You're halfway there.
Yeah.
Smile less. Smile less.
Just do less, bro. That's what it is.
Oh God.
If he takes it down to a 5, he'll be good.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or just chill, man. Like I don't know. 2022 Sirianni was dope to me because it was kind of like you got to see the rise of the outcast. But that can't be the same story for every chapter of the book. Like move off the outcast and start getting your ass into the limelight. Like bro, start wearing tuxedos. Like, get into your James Bond mode. Like, just be mature, be suave.
You can still wear the
wait for
fan
Aragorn to be Aragorn, not just the Strider anymore. You know what I mean? That is.
You can still wear like the fan made T-shirts or like T-shirts.
Yeah,
I love those.
Absolutely, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
like, you can still do that. Just I don't know. Like, here's the thing about Sirianni. You're talking about the rise and going into the Super Bowl. He had every like right. Well, I mean, everything fit. I guess the narrative around. Like it was like a movie, right? Like as if you're in a scene and it's like, yeah, you're supposed to be hype here because you're about to go to the Super Bowl. Nothing went wrong pretty much that entire season.
Mm-hmm.
Then when things did go wrong and then the room kind of fell apart because you had first-time coordinators who probably wouldn't have had the same opportunity in most other places, but Philadelphia hooked it up because they were late to the scene, pretty much.
Yeah.
Once you
start, really take blame either, to be fair. So
the thing is, once you start still going on like the 2022 version in 2023, and the scene in the movie isn't the same, then the memes actually is like when the memes come out, they're like, "That's your coach," and like it's funny now to see how miserable he is because you guys lost. Like all we are is people sitting in the corner going like, "Dang, that's like really accurate." Like, exactly. So it sucks, dude. But at the same time, it's like that's the polarizing part of Sirianni. You love it when it's going right, then you hate it when it's going wrong, and it's enunciated both ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's it right there.
People love to hate the Eagles, man. It's
really do, man. It's really annoying, bro.
It's astounding to me, man. Even up here, man. Even up here, it's like, oh, you're Eagles fan. It's just like, man, your team's way worse.
I'm not gonna lie though. I felt it when Sirianni said that when he told the Giants fans that were heckling him, like, "I got your best player." Like, I say the same thing all the time to all my.
Yeah,
man. Like, we got your best player. What you talking about?
And then, but all those Giants fans are going to be in the comments as soon as we lose a game. Like, bro, you're going to end the season 1-16. Like, but I don't know. People just get on their pedestal for no reason, and it's always when the Eagles are losing.
But when they win, it's just
Oh, anyway, we got this roster. Blah. Like, all right.
If Nick Sirianni wants to go to his post-game podium with one of these guys, then by all means,
we got to get him some T-shirts.
Yeah, send him.
It's gonna say Brian says Jalen's on the hot seat. Turnovers.
Eric said, "Grow some balls and mature."
Yeah.
Can you beat up a kangaroo? Something like that,
Shout out to Jay Fizz.
Just a question. It's just a question.
Man.
But yes, to Eric's point, guys, we shout out to Zach as well because Zach put this whole
thing
together.
Thank you, Zach, so much for hooking us up.
The store is actually live. We're actually working on more shirts behind the scenes. I'm trying to get some funny sayings from Eric every show. Then there was
every show. How many shirts are we gonna have? We're
gonna have a shirt with Eric's face plastered on it, or it's just gonna be the beard and the hair on top.
And we gotta get Canadian shipping.
Yes. Wait, does it ship to Canada?
I don't know if there is or not. I haven't checked.
We gotta check with Zach.
Yeah.
But yeah, that has launched as well as the new logo. I feel like we're starting fresh with this team. It's been the four of us for quite some time. I feel like it's kind of we need something that represents us a bit.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, until next week, I'm Brian Cameron alongside Eric Reese, Morgan Burkett, and you guys can find our store link on our Twitter. I'm sure Eric's gonna tweet it right after our show.
I will definitely retweet it all over again for sure. It's it's on our profile. I mean, if you see it before me, but it'll go back out again.
But yeah, we're flipping the birds.
Go Birds!
Yes, sir.
Flip.